Hi guys, this is Meenu. Welcome back to my channel Storytale. So it is finally the end of the year. We are done with 2022 and we are of course looking forward to 2023. But before we end this year, I just wanted to list my favorite books of the year. I'm pretty sure you have your favorites too, and I do too. So now without wasting any more time, let's get into it. There are many books that I've read this year which I've actually loved, but of course I cannot name all of them. That is why I have brought the list down to 5, at top 5, and there are gonna be 1 or 2 special mentions. But these 5 are my absolute favorite. I really had to sort a lot out, but these 5 are like books that have actually, left an impact on me. I actually loved these books. Not all of the books that I've listed here are new releases. They are old releases too, but I do not care about them. I read it in 2022, so that is why these are my favorite books of 2022. Let's start with number 5 and then we'll make our way to the top one. The 5th book on my list is Jackal by Erin E. Adams. This book is a recent release. It was released in I think October, and this was one of my Halloween reads. I was in love with this book because this book was so spooky, the kind of horror that I actually like, but there were also other things in this book that was actually very interesting. It is again a mystery book, a little bit of paranormal, a little bit of magic. There are a lot of lore when it comes to this book. I really like the eerie nature that this book actually brings out. It is about a small town where every year in the month of summers, one black girl, which is basically a teenager, is gone missing, and nobody is actually looking into this town because this town is basically a part which is a little bit racist in a subtle way. They are racist and they do not want to look into these black girls because they do not actually care about them. It is not a big deal for them, but every year these black girls are missing and Liz Rosher is the only one who's actually trying to find out the truth, and when she unravels everything you get to see a lot of things. This book goes into a lot of gory details and there's a lot of bloodshed, both of humans and animals, so of course it can be a little bit tricky for certain people, but this book is really amazing and it is the horror done at its best. I loved this book. I loved reading it, the writing style, everything, the characters, the racism that it is showing, everything in this book is just perfect, and that is why it is 5th one on my list. The 4th book on my list is another thriller horror book, which is The Book of Cold Cases by Simone St. James. This is the book that I read at this beginning of the year, and is again one of a very good book. I really love good thriller books when it's done right, of course. This has always been one of my favorite genres to read, and The Book of Cold Cases is one of those amazing books that does everything right. This is a story of 2 women. Both are from different time zone. One is Beth Greer's and the other one is Shia Collins. Even though these 2 women belong to a very different time zones, still their story is a lot connected. Shia is basically investigating the case of Beth Greer's. She is someone who looks into the cold cases which police are not actually looking into more. So with that case she finds out a lot about Beth Greer's. She finds a lot about her history. There's also paranormal elements in this book. There's a lot in this book which you're gonna actually love. This is the book that gets you hooked because the characters, the storyline, the premise, even the side characters are very good in this one. Like the book Jackal, it also shines a light on social issues, especially when it comes to women and how women are perceived. Through Beth Greer's, we see all the problems that she faces because she is a woman and she is single and she is rich. So of course there are a lot of problems that she has to deal with. Shia Collins also has her troubles. So like I said, this book does everything right. It has the right amount of horror. It has right amount of paranormal. It has right amount of everything. So I think you should really give this book a try. The 3rd book on my list is All My Rage by Sabaa Tahir. Sabaa Tahir is one of my favorite authors. I love her books. I loved her series An Ember in the Ashes. I think it is one of the best fantasy series out there, and when I picked up this book I did have a little bit of doubt because this is the first time that she's writing a contemporary story, but I was wrong to doubt her because I should have known that she would excel at this one too. All My Rage, like the title suggests, is someone who is actually holding on to a lot of rage, and that is subtly hinted at in this book. It is not going to be on the nose. So when you read the book you'll know. So this is the story of Salaluddin and Noor, and there's also Misbah. Salaluddin and Noor are friends, and these are the kind of friends that you know are gonna be with you in the time of need, and that is what their friendship is. Even though Salaluddin and Noor were not talking to each other, still Noor was there when Salaluddin needed her. Salaluddin just recently lost his mother, and his father was lost to alcoholism. He was not there for the motel that his mother used to run, and the motel also was in a lot of debt. So of course there are a lot of problems that was going on with him. And there's Noor, who has her own problems, like she was going through a lot, but she did not tell Salaluddin that, and she was there for him even though she was not talking for a very long time with him, but still when he needed her, she was there. She helped him throughout all his problems, all his issues, and she was always there for him. Noor also shared a very beautiful relationship with his mother Misbah. We also get a point of view of Misbah when she was young, when she was getting married, how she was building her life, how she made this motel, how she opened it. With Misbah we see a lot of her issues too, because she lost a lot of people while she was growing up, and then she has to come to this country where she does not know anything, she does not know the language, she is an immigrant, she is a people of color. So of course there were a lot of problems that she had to face too. This book talks a lot about grief. It talks a lot about loss, and it is a really beautifully written book. It is of course gonna make you cry, because this is a truly beautiful story of grief and love and loss. So I think everyone should give this book a try, because Sabaa Tahir is just amazing at what she does, and this is what she does best. The second book on my list is Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas. This is the year that I fell in love with Penelope Douglas's book. I did start with Punk 57, and it was a good book. There were a lot of issues in those books, I agree, but still it was a fun read. And then there's Birthday Girl. Birthday Girl is just amazing. I loved it. I love the characters, I love the story, I love everything about it. This is the story of Jordan, who is a 19-year-old girl, and she has a boyfriend. One day in a movie theater, she meets her boyfriend's father, Pike, who is an amazing guy. She did have an instant connection with him, but at the time she did not know that he was his father, like her boyfriend's father. Cole is like an absent boyfriend. He does not contribute any way when it comes to Jordan or their life together. He cannot hold a job, he does not do any household work, and he's the reason that Jordan and her boyfriend was thrown out of their previous house. They had no money, they do not have anything, so Jordan and Cole had to move in with Pike, who is Cole's father. But again, Cole and Pike do not actually share a very loving relationship. Cole has been manipulated a lot by his mother, and he does not like Pike, but Pike, who is 38-year-old, loves his son, so of course he was willing to take both of them in his house. And he's a very hardworking man. He's like totally opposite of Cole. He's very responsible, he's a loving person, he's of course again he's handsome and everything, and he's 38, so he's not too old. Slowly into the book that we realize that Cole is a very shitty person, and Pike is a very great person. And their relationship, the subtle way that it develops between Pike and Jordan, it is very beautifully done. Everything in this book is beautifully done, except for the, of course, the relationship with the boyfriend's father. But they did not start anything until Jordan was actually broken up with Cole, so that kind of makes it a little bit okay. Of course this is a lot to digest considering the relationship and everything, but still this is a very beautifully written book. I do have my issues with it, but I do love this book because I love the characters, the story, the romance, the sex scenes and everything. I think this was done very beautifully. I do love it. I do love this book. Now before I talk about my top favorite book, I do like to give some special mentions. I did love Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmis. This is again one of the books that you should read. It talks about women empowerment, the social issues that they had to face. There is this beautiful love story. I love this book. I think this is worth mentioning. The other book that I love is Kekai by Vaishnavi Patel. This is basically a retelling of the character Kekai, which we know from the story Ramayana. This is more a fictionalized version where we get Kekai as this strong princess who was a warrior princess, and there are a lot of achievement that she did. Of course she had to face again a lot of problems because she was a woman in that time. We are still facing problems, so of course you can imagine how worse it was back then. but we get to see her point of view, where there's a lot of characters, like of course characters from Ramayana, which you get to read. This is again an amazing story. I think everyone should give this a try too, and of course you should give it a try for Vaishnavi Patel too, because this was her debut novel and she did it amazingly. The next book that I loved this year was A Plain Story by Anmol Malik. I think it was again one of the very fun, loving, very light-hearted kind of a book. It was a very surprise for me. I really loved it. I was not expecting much from this one, but it did actually took me by surprise. I loved it. This is more like a rom-com, meet cute kind of romance, especially the exes and everything. There's a wedding, there's this whole premise of airport scenes, so everything about this one is nice. You can give it a try. This is a very light and very funny read. And the last special mention is November 9 by Colleen Hoover. I love Colleen Hoover. I've loved every of her books that I've read, and November 9 is one of my favorite books of her. I love the whole concept of November 9. I love this love story. I loved everything. This is again one of my favorite books. Now let's talk about my top favorite book, and that is Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover. Ugly Love, I loved it. I mean, it was so good. It was so amazing. It has like everything. It has emotions, it has sex scenes, it has this beautiful love story, and we get two love stories. It has again tragedy. It has everything. I love it. I love this book. The story is of Tate and Miles, who are basically attracted to each other, but Miles has a very sad or very tragic past, so that is why it is very much bothering him. Even though it has been 6 years, he is not over it. I mean, of course I can understand, because you get to know when you get to know the past, and it is very tragic. This is not something that actually you get over easily. Tate is hopelessly in love with Miles, and she does not know anything about his past, but in order to keep their relationship, she has to ignore it, but of course she cannot for a very long time. Their relationship is like no string attached kind of relationship, but of course it is bothering a lot, and it is not like a normal no string attached kind of relationship. It is much more deeper than that. There's so many emotional scenes when it comes to their love story. There's a lot of pain, there's a lot of grief, and when you read, of course you must have read it, because this is a very popular book. I'm pretty sure many of the people have read it, because this is again one of popular books of Colleen Hoover. This is just hauntingly very beautiful. The emotions, the characters, like I said, the past, the relationship between Miles and Tate, and the relationship between Miles and Rachel. Everything was done perfectly. Like I said, the sex scenes, of course the sex scenes are so well written, especially when those sex scenes were related to this very deep emotion, this pain, that grief. Loved it. Love the way it is written, love the way it is shown. I love this book, everything about this one. This book is my top favorite, because this is the only book that I want to reread again. So that was my list of my top favorite books this year. If you have any list, do let me know in the comments down below. I would love to hear your thoughts. And of course, I will see you next time. Do not forget to subscribe, and have a great year ahead.